That's how I stay too. Richer than rich, so you niggas come and get me. Sometimes your words just hypnotize me, and I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they moved in your something. Welcome back to Sports Talk is McKinney, and we're listening to the song Notorious in honor of Conor McGregor last night. UFC 194 just completely annihilating the previously undefeated for over 10 years, Jose Aldo, by knockout in 13 seconds. An incredible event last night, UFC 194 in Las Vegas. It was for the featherweight title, and of course, Jose Aldo had been the champion. He was injured. Then McGregor actually won the interim belt, and actually did not win it in very spectacular fashion. He actually hurt his hand during that fight. But then last night, we were expecting a war, but what we ended up getting was a 13-second annihilation, the shortest title fight in the history of the UFC. It beat Ronda Rousey's previous record of 14 seconds. Just a complete destruction, and I think right now, from what I've heard, Vegas is still recovering because it basically turned into Ireland last night after the fight, Mike.
Well, we could see it in our studios, in our luxurious studios, with our all our monitors. We had everything going on. We could see, the betting lines and everything. But anyway, the reports were like you're saying, like it was like over 90%. McGregor. It was only 90%. Green, Irish clad fans there, and one punch later. One overhand left later. That's it.
Yeah, well, Jose Aldo, he's been the featherweight. He's ruled the featherweight division basically for 7 years. Just has been completely dominating that. And McGregor, who's very brash, he's very outspoken. He's been a phenom since he came to the UFC in 2013. But going into the fight, we knew McGregor was going to bring in the fans. They ended up having over 16,000 people and had a U.S. record gate revenue for the UFC. And this is just the gate alone of over $10 million. It was just, I did not see the one-handed, one-punch destruction that ended up happening. No one foresaw that happening. McGregor, though, who, basically, Aldo came out very aggressive. McGregor threw one punch, Aldo tried to counter, and then off of the counter, McGregor just caught him. The initial punch, when you saw it, at first it didn't look like that powerful of a punch, but then when you watch the replay, he caught him right on the chin, right where you don't want to get hit, and just completely destroyed Jose Aldo. And now the question is, where are they going from here? Some of the things that they're talking about on McGregor is, say, that might have been his last fight at featherweight, and he might end up going up to and fighting at 155 instead of 145 and fighting Donald Cerrone. But, Mike, whoever he fights, it's going to be a big money fight. And the UFC, with what happened with Rousey home a couple weeks ago, and now what happened last night with McGregor, business is good for Dana White and the UFC.
Oh, could you imagine if they were to schedule a night with both of those rematches on the same night? You're talking about the gates. They would explode. You're talking about making some money, to make some serious money if you have both of those rematches, on the same night, which I don't guess they would. They'd probably spread it out so they could make more money over the long run.
There has been talk about that. Dana White is talking about trying to have a fight down in the Dallas Stadium and trying to shoot for an event that would have over 100,000 people. And if they have McGregor fighting in Dallas, I think he can fill the house. If they have him and Rousey on the same card, I think they might be able to fill the house and do 100,000 people in Dallas.
One of the things that struck me outside of that fight, prior to it, was the referee in the previous fight caught a lot of flack from allowing a fighter to get just pummeled when he was in that defensive I give up position. hit 30, 40 times without returning a blow. And so it's going to be interesting over the next few days to see what's going to happen with that. Because from all reports, he's like he's one of the better referees that the UFC has. And
well, Mike, and I agree with you. I mean, Herb Dean, who he was refereeing the Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold fight, which I had predicted going in that Weidman I thought was going to be able to win. I thought his wrestling was going to be too strong, but former Strikeforce champion Luke Rockhold just, single-handedly dominated him. But yes, Herb Dean's getting a lot of controversy for allowing 30 to 50 unanswered punches. Just really a total annihilation. A lot of people thought, including myself, that the fight should have probably been stopped after the third round. But, Chris Weidman just totally got destroyed. Luke Rockhold now is the new middleweight champion. But Herb Dean, longtime UFC referee, I mean, he's been there for years and years. A lot of controversy over that, Mike.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if you guys out there get a chance to look it up on YouTube or something, it is not pretty to watch. This is how people get brain damage. Because he was just getting pummeled, punch after punch after punch, And these guys, as we know, they pack a wallet.
And, I mean, Rockhold in that fight just totally, it was basically 3-1. It was basically 3-1 on punches landed during that fight. And Rockhold, basically the only person that I know that was saying Rockhold has a chance is a coworker of mine named Nathan Rogers, who said, Rockhold, the former Strikeforce champ, would be too much for Weidman to handle. And he hit the nail right on the head. But outstanding event last night. I mean, over 10 million on the live gate, and then they're also talking about pay-per-view numbers that is possibly going to surpass the Rousey home fight. So, life is good. A lot of people wondered when George St. Pierre left the UFC, how was the UFC going to continue to do? And business is still booming for the UFC, and especially with Conor McGregor, if he steps up to 155 and fights Donald Cowboy Cerrone, I'll just tell you that will be one hell of a fight. Also, if he decides for a rematch against Jose Aldo, right after the fight, Aldo was already calling for the rematch. You
got to give a rematch on a 13-second fight because you got to figure out if it's a fluke or not. Guy deserves a rematch. You got to give it to him.
Well, after being undefeated for 10 years, dominating the featherweight division for 7 years, I agree with you, Mike. I mean, Aldo does deserve a rematch for it to see was it just a fluke punch. I mean, of course, a lot of people have been saying, too, Aldo had been out for an extended period of time with the injury beforehand, and a lot of people are saying a lot of ring rust might have tied into it. But all props go to Conor McGregor last night. Just the dominating, one-side, fantastic performance. And I got to say, I was really a little surprised in the after-fight interview. The normally brash and pro wrestling-esque promo cutter McGregor really seemed to not be as excited as I thought he would, but McGregor is exactly what the UFC wants. He can knock people out. He can sell a fight. He can talk. And the UFC, Dana White, has got to be just ecstatic for the future possibilities of fights going into 2016. Rematches with Holman Rousey, McGregor, Aldo, maybe you bring the Cowboy Cerrone in, but business is good for the UFC, and we're getting ready to go to break, and when we come back, we got some more to talk about in the world of sports. We'll be right back on Sports Talk is McKemmy.